So, hi James, we're sat in front of what could be compared as maybe a completely different, or the opposite of what we just had a look at, right? So this is the Neve Genesys.
That's right, this is the Genesys Black, this version. And as you say, the exact opposite to the BCM10, where the BCM10, what you see is what you get. It's no recall, no DAW control, no digital interface, nothing. Whereas this is the exact opposite. This is an all analog signal path, but heavily down the route of digital control to try and make it as fast to use as possible, as quick to move between sessions, and yeah, quite an interesting kind of hybrid. So this is all based around giving you plenty of control. So we have some permanent DAW controller faders, a touch screen, keyboard and mouse shelf, which is not to be sniffed at because so many people have to sort of get bits of furniture or start banging bits of MDF together. So the idea is that it can actually, you know, the definition of a console to sit in the centre of your room and bring the whole thing together. But then we have traditional Neve channels with a preamplifier, EQ and dynamics. But you'll notice there's no controls for the EQ and dynamics there because it operates like a digital console in that you'll assign an EQ to the centre section and modify it. But the advantage of that is not only does it keep the channel strip manageable in size, but it's things that you take for granted, like being able to copy and paste and link things together for stereo, makes all that possible.
So the kind of like compression and EQ settings that you were talking about on the channel strips, is that on all kind of analog signal path?
Absolutely,
but
yeah,
just
yeah.
under direct visual control.
So no, it's a good question because it's not immediately obvious by looking at it. But yeah, the plugins in the truest sense of having a piece of hardware on a circuit board plugged into the back. There's two EQ options. You can have the 88R, which is the modern 4-band EQ, or the 1084, which is the traditional Neve 3-band, and then the dynamics of the compressor gate are from the 88R. And yeah, so it's an all analog signal path, but with digital control, like we discussed. So there's immediate recall, and you know, it saves snapshots and templates. So it's very flexible.
Excellent. And you said so. This is door control. The faders are all just door control.
That's right. So we've got Logic open here as an example, but we have fader control of Logic, Pro Tools, Cubase, no, and anything else, and also a touch screen. And so you notice the best reverb in the world there, sitting on the screen, sitting pretty. Yeah, so we wouldn't pretend that it's tied in like a dedicated controller, but for a lot of people it's just having hands-on control for levels, automation modes, cuts and solos, that kind of thing, and machine control, being able to start, go, punch in from the console. Again, it saves having to balance keyboards on top of things or do too many miles in your chair across the studio floor.
Yeah, so I suppose the kind of selling point of it is that you get the kind of convenience of working in the box, but with the feel of, and obviously the sound of a proper analog desk. Right?
That's right, and it's exactly that. You can use as little or as much of it as you like. So if it's a quick turnaround project, then you might stay in the box but spread it out onto the controller. Or you can sum everything together. Again, so many people will have a large session but bring out stems to the console to sweeten, maybe to put some processing on, or even just for the analog summing, just to get a bit of the console sound onto it. So you can push it as much as you like, really.
So in terms of like channel count and getting your kind of audio out of your door and into the console, do you need a kind of separate interface for that, or is that kind of like part of the console itself?
Well, again, we offer an option for that. So this has the converter option installed. So again, just another circuit board you can install at the bottom, and this gives a MADI interface. So we're connecting the whole console to the Mac there with one cable. which works really well and cuts down a lot of clutter, and you're not paying for a case and a power supply then as part of the console. And also it means settings recall with the console and everything else. So it's got quite a lot of I/O for the size. This example here, this is the smallest configuration of the Genesys we do. So it has 8 channels, so 8 Neve mic preamps, etc. But it's an inline console, so there's actually 16 inputs that can be routed, mixed separately.
So if if it's an 8-channel console, does that mean that you can mix 8 channels with the EQs and the channel strip basically, and the compression and stuff like that? So you just got. So if you wanted to then add more channels, would you just need to bounce those down, like just print them to the computer?
Yeah, you can. For tracking with this setup, you've got 8 preamps, and as you say, 8 EQs, dynamics. But in mixdown mode, you've got 16 then, so you can the channel inputs and then the monitor section inputs. You've got 8 there. So for the final mix, then you can mix 16 things together. You've got 2 inserts on every channel, and they can be moved around the order wherever you like them. So again, to have all your outboard permanently connected to the console and choose from your DAW where you're going to bus it to make use of that. So people use it slightly in a modern way, whereas traditionally you'd lay everything out across the console and have a big patch bay and work out what was going where. Now, because it's so easy from the DAW to pick where channels are going to end up on the console, you can make that decision based on what's hooked up to it and what you want to use.
So in terms of is there any kind of master bus compression or anything, or
no? Because on this one, everyone has a different opinion on what makes a good master compressor. So there's 2 inserts on a master mix bus. There's a traditional insert and then there's a parallel insert. So you can do some really crazy stuff with that, and then inserts on the buses as well. So you can patch anything you like. There's no reason you can't patch it back to the channel and use the Neve compressors there as well, I suppose. Yeah, that's the nice thing about an analog console. You can put any signal wherever you like, really.
And did you need a kind of a patch bay in order to do that, or can you do that kind of internally?
It's quite flexible to do internal routing, but yeah, it's again, no patch bays and custom cabling so expensive that people don't want to. It's a way to keep the price down. It's not having some crazy patch, but it all uses D connectors, DB25, so you can buy an off-the-shelf patch bay and some ready-made patch cables, and you could actually make the console a lot more flexible without a load of custom cabling going on. So it's fairly easy now to install.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
Pleasure.